Hello, friends. It's Mary Beth Lyson from the Adoption Collective, and today I want to talk about neuroscience and what that means for adoptees. Because as I learned about that, it changed everything for me. It validated so much of, I think, the experience that I had and many other adoptees have had with this understanding, and it has a lot of implications for both explaining the harm and the trauma that happens when we're adopted, and also the opportunities for healing. We used to think that babies came into the world as blank slates, right? Fresh start, no nothing. And now we know that's ridiculous, right? We know they feel pain. We know they feel joy. They're intimately connected with the mother in the womb. So she's passing on her genes. She's passing on epigenetics, right? Because of the experiences that mothers and ancestors have had, that tells genes to turn on and off. And for 9 months or so, you're also in the environment of your mother, right? And when you think about being in that environment, for the vast majority of birth mothers, it's an extremely stressful time, understandably so, and incredibly unimaginably difficult. Even if you really love your baby, really want to send your baby off into their next life in the most wonderful way, it's still stressful. And you have anticipatory grief. You're going to be saying goodbye to that baby. Or maybe, if you're in more of an open adoption, there may be some contact, but it's not going to be your child in that same way. So you're awash in all kinds of chemicals as an infant growing in that environment. It has a big effect. I think the other thing that's hugely important to know about this is that babies, until they are 6 to 9 months old, do not even understand. They have no conception that they're a separate being from their mother. They think they're one being, right? So if you think about that for a minute, think about what that really means when you think about adoption and being separated from that mother. You've literally lived in her. You think you're the same being. It's like getting ripped in half. And one half of you completely going away, right? And on top of that, you can't move. Can't move yet as a baby. You can't talk. You have no way to make sense of this, right? So think about what that does to a little bitty newborn nervous system. Your choices in that moment of stress and overwhelm are fight, flight, or freeze. Well, you can't do much in the way of fight besides cry and maybe arch your spine. That's all the fight you got. You can't flee, can't move any of those bodily sensations at all, bodily functions. And so what do? Often you go to freeze, which is the most primitive one once you've tried the other ones, where you freeze. But that's an overwhelmed, out of the window of tolerance nervous system, right? It's terrifying to think about that. Any of us, if somebody came up and tore my body in half, would not be a pleasant experience. The other thing that's really important to understand about babies and development is babies also have no real sense of time until they're about 6 months old. There's kind of a magic time in terms of development when you get to be about 6 months old. They don't have that time when they're born. Everything is a now. And the now, it lasts forever in their experience. I call it the eternal now. You don't know this will end, right? If you're in an experience, you don't know that yesterday you felt better or tomorrow you will feel better. You don't have any sense of time. There's just now, now, now. And right now, if your now is filled with love and connection and joy and cuddling and attunement and your needs being met, that's awesome. But if in that moment it's terror and you've been ripped apart, half of you is gone and you don't know where it is, you don't recognize any smells, you don't recognize any sounds, you don't recognize any sensations, that now is terrifying. And so that's there, right? And that's happening. And the good news from all of that, because that all sounds, I know, really bad, and it is. It's traumatic. It's grief, right? A baby remembers their mother. They remember it. They don't have words for that. They have physical sensation, physical memories. It's stored in the body, right? They remember how that feels in the body, but they don't have words for that. And so when you think about that, that's kind of the bad news. That's just the reality. It's not even bad news. It's just reality. And what we've also learned from neuroscience is that we can bring in many, many more nows. When babies, when adoptees are cared for, when their needs are met, when they're regulated, when they're with caregivers who are attuning and sensitive to all of this, they have more and more and more nows that are about love and co-regulation and being together that make up for and make up a bigger percentage of their experiences, right? So this one thing that was over here that was really terrible, now I have all of these other experiences. I have all these other nows that can help change my neurochemistry. They can change my nervous system. They can change how my brain's wiring, taking me out of that fear and overwhelm and shutdown place that may have happened and bring me back into attunement, right? That is absolutely possible. And that's the beauty of neuroscience. It shows us that we can change. We can rewire our brains for the better. And I also want to say that we still remember. We still had those experiences. They still existed. They can never be erased. It's just fact. They happened. We as adoptees were taken from our mother that we thought we were literally a part of. We know her heartbeat, we know her voice, we know her smells, we know everything, and that's gone, right? That's true. And our bodies remember that, right? And just that sense that in those moments, that was so overwhelming because we didn't know there would be a tomorrow that would be a lot better, right? So it was a lot. And so we have to tend to that, right? We honor that. We say, that's okay, right? That was true. And there's more. So we can heal that anytime that we come into that place of love and acceptance and connection with ourselves or with others, right? When we have caregivers as children, if we're fortunate enough to have caregivers who really attune to that and help us in those ways, know that there's a grief process happening. They can help us with that. And even if they didn't, even if you didn't get that kind of attunement as a child, you can still give it to yourself as an adult. And we know that we can change the brain, right? So that's here, that's there. We can heal through that love, through attunement, through connection, right? Whether that's from another person or we're giving it to ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we ever forget or that we should ever try and pass over what initially happened. That's true. It's part of our story. It's part of our reality, and it's literally in our bodies. And we can bring in so much more. We can bring in more love, more experiences of attunement. We can focus on those. We can include those. So we include that experience in a whole bigger and bigger and bigger ocean of love, of connection, of belonging, of attunement. And that can hold everything. So thank you very much for listening to this. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I haven't shared them in this way before, and I would love to start a conversation about that. If you like this, share this. And if you want to leave some comments and start a discussion, I'd welcome that. You can find me on my website, adoptioncollective.com, and connect me with me there. I'd welcome if you just wanted to set up a 20-minute conversation to talk more. That's it for now. And remember that you are always, always, always welcome here.